Hey everyone, back with another build order tutorial. This one is a rather clever spin on the 3 racks that includes double upgrades done by Byun. When possible, in the future, the build order tutorials will have the videos of the actual game that I studied and took them from. When not possible, you'll see me trying to replicate it to the best of my ability. But without further ado, let's get into the build order. As usual, it will be text and audio, so you can follow along with both. (14) Supply Depot. Now here, Byun did a rather fast scout. Maybe he did plan on going for a proxy racks, or maybe there was a weird build from the Protoss, but you can usually hold off on your scout for a little while. Did a barracks. And then a refinery. Saturate your refinery. Get a marine and an orbital. You can fit a Reaper into this build if you would prefer. Command Center. Reactor. (21) barracks. Supply Depot. (23) barracks. Marine production. Tech lab, as soon as one of the barracks is done. Orbital at the natural. Start stim, continue producing marines. Tech lab on the 3rd barracks, start 1 engineering bay. And then another engineering bay. Remember not to get supply blocked. Continue marine production. Start +1, +1, both attack and armor. Get a 2nd refinery. Start combat shields. Saturate that second refinery. Should be around 4:30 now. You will move out with your Marines in a way that is hopefully sneaky around the map. Build a factory as soon as you have 100 gas. Get a third refinery. Start your marauder production and start marauder slow when possible. Saturate your third refinery and start moving forward. You should have stim, combat shields, and 1-1 finished before you actually make the move on the Protoss army. Get a starport when the factory is done. Add a reactor. And now around 5:35-ish, you will hit with all of your upgrades and a good number of Marines, hopefully killing your Protoss opponent. Now, in case you don't just stim to win, continue macroing. Get an armory. Swap the factory in the starport and start your medivac production. Get a fourth refinery. Get 2 additional barracks. Grab a third command center, ideally on location. And from there, you're just going to macro. On to the build discussion. So for this build, there are definitely a couple of strengths, not too many weaknesses, but for the strengths, we have the good old surprise factor. With 3 racks, there's always that possibility in the Protoss's mind that you attack before medivacs, but rarely do they see it with 1-1 also done. It provides an opportunity for early pressure, so either you commit to the attack or you don't, but you still scare the Protoss. It's a solid TvP build order. It's definitely not the most macro-oriented one, and it is kind of like an outlier. It's not the bread and butter build I would give you if you were to ask me to give you one, but it is fairly solid. It provides safety options in the early to mid game, which I think is why it's a solid build order, and it can also be adapted to more of a macro-oriented style. You can choose not to commit with the Marines, to commit with the Marines. You can wait for the medivacs. There's a lot of ways to play around with this, especially if it starts to not grab you those free victories. For the weaknesses, there are a few. Depends a little on the Marines going unscouted. Unfortunately, if the Marines are scouted before the upgrades are done, there's a possibility Blink Stalkers take out that Marine force, which obviously is not in your favor. It lacks early tech and scouting, especially if you skip that Reaper. You just won't really know what they're doing, and either have to waste a scan or have some really good knowledge of the matchup and scout with an SCV. And then it doesn't have a lot of early tech, so if you don't kind of do a lot with the first push, then you're not going to have like the most amazing follow-up of like immediately 2 medivacs, 4 medivacs, liberators, all that jazz. And the trade-off between medevac timing and upgrades can sometimes just simply not be worth it, especially because there is a bit of a gap between 1-1 and 2-2. You just can't afford to go for 1-1 and then halfway through that upgrade also get an armory, as well as everything else that you still need to get. So sometimes it does drag you behind when you get into that mid-game TvP. So for the tips of this build, a Reaper first can be made instead of the Marine, but will throw the build off slightly. I believe either your stim or combat shields is kind of delayed. You can scare the Protoss by moving aggressively with the Marines, However, be careful not to have them picked off before the big 1-1 push. So that comes down to if they're Blink Stalker pressuring you and you try to move out, they'll know, they'll pick it off, it'll be bad. If it's Mass Adept and you didn't realize, or Mass Charge Lot, you could die. Like, it's good against the typical solid macro build orders of a Protoss, but might have weaknesses around more aggressive TVPs. An SCV can be sent around the 450 mark to check if third base was taken. If it's not down by then or prepared to be taken, then you're in for some trouble. And then finally, split Marines between bases and build a bunker at the front to cover most aggression. So if you don't know what's happening and you don't know your opponent, which you probably don't on ladder, and you're like, well, is it a Stargate or not? Just split your Marines. And if you build a bunker at the front, even if they do instead go for like a blink attack, ideally you'll be able to pull the SCVs fast enough from repair. And then if it's an Oracle, they kind of suck now anyways, so Marines should just do the trick. And of course, if you like this content, then consider following me on this YouTube channel, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Instagram, supporting my Patreon, whatever. And also, go ahead and check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.